Um, um, so the younger one, 10-year-old, so she's younger than me. So she was.
Some people muted. All right. And we are recording. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I am so excited for tonight. My name is Heidi Roberge. I am a diamond leader from New Hampshire. A little bit about me real quick is I started It Works in September of 2015. So I am 5 years with this company. This is my first network marketing experience, and it's definitely the only company I will be partnering with. I have found my faith through this company. I have found freedom. As a mom of 3, I have been able to be home completely with the kids and hubby for the past few years, and especially since everything kind of shut down in March. We have been in a remote learning environment. I have a 19-year-old daughter who's a sophomore in college, a 12-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old son. Almost 50, I feel like the best I have ever felt since this company came into my life. And 5 years ago, I was skeptical. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this business. And I have found just a family, a community, and so much more because of this. And so this summer, when everything started to shut down, I was slated to go to Margaritaville. And that was a trip that I had worked really hard for this time last year. And I'm building a new team. New people have come in this year in a crazy 2020 climate. And I have such a team full of community that I never had before. So for me, my level up leadership has been slower, but we don't compare, right? We all have our journey. We all take take leadership tips and tricks and everything with as much as we can do. And when it's the right time, it's the right time. And so for me, I wanted to bring on some amazing leaders to pour into us, to give them the spotlight. That's the main thing. I have asked specific leadership all summer long, and I've got people booking with me all fall. And it's exciting because, listen, all I did was ask and pray that they read the message request. That's the biggest thing. So, and lastly, I just want to say that my recording will go on my YouTube channel, so everybody can benefit from my recordings. It's in my name, Heidi Roberge, YouTube, public. No worry to find this. This will get uploaded later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. So again, this is where I really want leaders to just share as transparent as they wish to be. I've sent Brittany, our ambassador diamond guest tonight, Brittany Hayes. I've sent her kind of the lead-in questions. And, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. It's something that I can definitely, glance at if you guys have some burning questions. And I'm so excited you guys are here. And if more come in, I'll admit them, Brittany, but we're going to get started. That's a little bit about me. I'm so thankful that you and grateful that you are taking some time tonight. So if you go ahead and unmute and just introduce yourselves to anyone that has not had the privilege to meet you or know who you are. Tell everybody about where you're from, where you were at when It Works came into your life, and where you're headed.
Thank you so much for having me, Heidi. I'm happy to be here. So my name's Brittany Hayes. I'm Ambassador Diamond, top 20 income earner with It Works, and I've been here for 4 years. When I got started, I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, although I do live in Southwest Florida now, thanks to It Works. But when I first got started, I was a stay-at-home mom of, at the time, 4 kids. I actually have 5 kids now. I just had my 4th baby. He was 8 weeks old, and I was time. And I had been following Maya Roller Claire Flores. She's also an Ambassador Diamond. I've been following her for 11 months, and I've been watching her rapidly change her family's life, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. We were living paycheck to paycheck. I was struggling with so much anxiety. I was literally losing clumps of hair in the shower. I was barely sleeping. And I just, we were so broke. We were having to put gas and groceries on a credit card. We were in 6 figures of debt. And I just knew there had to be more to life than barely getting by. And I kind of had this epiphany after watching her, continuously promote through the company and talk about how happy she was and how she retired her husband and all these great things. I had this epiphany like, okay, nothing's going to change if I don't make a change. And she clearly is doing something that's working. When I first saw her start the business, like I just kind of assumed that it must be kind of like every other network marketing company. But then I couldn't help but notice as I was watching that I was seeing people with this business do things that I didn't see people do with other businesses. I didn't see other businesses talk about retiring their husbands and, earning six figures their first year in the business. Like I didn't see those possibilities. And I love so much what, Heidi shared about timeline, because that was something that really was important to me when I got started, was being in competition with no one but myself. When I first got started, I actually had a little bit of a slow start. So let me back up for a second. I reached out to Claire just one night after praying for a solution. I felt like God was telling me, Brittany, the solution's been right in front of you all along. Just trust me, just do it. And so in that moment, I decided to silence my fear and take a leap of faith and to contact her. I got started right away. I didn't even have any questions. I literally just asked for the steps to sign up. And I made a commitment in that moment that I was going to work hard, that I was going to be consistent. I told myself, if it works for her, it'll work for me. And that was that. Like, I didn't need to know anything else. Like, I knew I could figure it out along the way. And I truly do think like that unwavering faith and that commitment is so important. When I got started, there was a $500 Ruby bonus on the line, and you had to go Ruby in your first 2 calendar months to get it. And a lot of people that Claire signed that month that I joined, which was June of 2016, a lot of people that I saw that Claire signed that month the same time as me were going Ruby in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we're getting that bonus. And it took me 3 months to go executive, 4 months to go Ruby. And so compared to the other people that joined the same time as me, I had what you would consider to be a slow start. But I did not, like, it would have been easy to be like, oh my gosh, this must just not be for me. But I never once thought that. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on so right with them, but I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep watching Zooms all day. I don't know what I'm missing, but I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to be stressed about it. So I continued to watch. I have a smart TV. And so I would just have YouTube on the TV all day. I did not watch TV shows anymore. It was just YouTube, because I wanted to learn all that I could learn. And also, I just want to say this, for if maybe you haven't really been doing self-development as consistently as you should, I want to say this real quick. When I got started, having YouTube on all the time like that, it's impossible to get in a huge funk when you have so much inspiration flowing all day. Sure, you might have a bad day. Sure, your kids might get sick, or, it just might be a really off day for some reason. Everything could be seemingly going wrong. But if you're listening to all these people who have done well in the business, like, you're going to be inspired. You're going to hear a little bit of your story and someone else's story. And you're going to have this moment where you're like, okay, you know what? Like, if they can do it, so can I. And you're going to snap yourself out of it so much quicker. But where the enemy gets to us is when he can isolate us. And so, like, when you don't do your self-development, and, you should be doing it every day, but, one day you don't do it. And then one day turns into 2 days, and 2 days turns into a week, and 1 week turns into a month. And before you know it, it's been 6 months since you've listened to anything inspiring. It's been, 3 weeks since you were on the last team Zoom, and they're the same time every single week. Like, before you know it, he's isolated you so far that you're not thinking clearly. Like, you start making bad decisions. And that is when I truly believe people self-sabotage and they quit, or they just completely fall off, even if they don't officially quit. And so for me, like, one thing that I think really, I know really helped me from the beginning was always staying close to the fire like that. Because it would have been really easy to just think like, okay, well, everyone else she signed the same month as me is promoting so fast, and I'm not. This must not be something that's for me. But I didn't ever think that, because I was hearing so many stories. I remember hearing Jocelyn Yates and it taking her 9 months to go executive. And then sure, I heard Tiffany Herr, who happens to be one of my uplines, go triple diamond in 90 days. But like, there was a balance. I was hearing so many stories that I was like, okay, like, I'll get there eventually. Like, it's going to be okay. So it took me 4 months to go Ruby. My husband went Ruby the next month, so that was 5 months. And then I went Diamond and he went Emerald in 7 months. And then I went double Diamond 2 months after that. He went double Diamond the month after that. And then my 1 year anniversary, I was triple Diamond. What I want to tell you is that so many of those people that I saw go Ruby, their first like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, quit when they didn't go Diamond just as fast. And so I'm not saying anybody who goes Ruby fast is going to quit. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying not everything is as it seems. You might be seeing someone go really fast and you're jealous, you're envious, whatever you want to call it, but they might not have the long faith. And you might have the long faith. And so, yes, you might have a slower start, but you can choose to have that long faith that doesn't give up and that keeps going. They might turn around and stop a couple months later because Diamond didn't happen as fast for them. Claire started a group I always bring this up because she started a group, like a challenge group in September, which was the month I went executive. I went Ruby in October. And that group, she never like archived it. It was just like a 1 month challenge group, but it's still there. And I've gone back to look at it time and time again. Everyone in that group is either double diamond or above today, most are VIP, or has quit. There's no in between. And the people that quit literally quit a few months after that group. They were already Ruby when the group started, and then they didn't promote again for a couple months and they quit. Everyone else was like distributor executive when it started, but was ready to level up for more, and they didn't quit, and they're double diamond or VIP now. And I just think like that speaks so much volumes, because it really is one or the other. Like, you're either going to keep going and you're going to keep making progress. Sure, you might have some hiccups along the road, or you're going to quit. And that choice is up to you. So, okay, at my 1 year anniversary, I was triple diamond. I had retired my husband 7 months in. By our 1 year anniversary, we moved to the beach. A few months after that, we were able to pay off over $120,000 of debt, and just really, really finally start being able to say yes to our kids, take our kids to Disney World, things like that we've never been able to do. And then throughout the winter, I lost rank of triple diamond, and I was maintaining double diamond for quite a while. And I remember thinking like, okay, because when I went triple diamond, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go presidential in a couple months. And I actually sat at triple diamond for 17 months. And when I got triple diamond back, I went presidential 2 months later and had like the highest check I'd ever had. But I'm sharing this with you to say, no one that you look up to is it like this, like a straight shot. Like for me, I had a slow start, and then I kind of had a really, really big jump, and then I lost rank for a little bit, and then I sat there for a little bit, and then I went presidential and then went ambassador 5 months later, and I'm triple diamond on my 2.0 now. And it's just, I think so often when we get discouraged, though, we don't understand that even the people that we're looking up to, like, there's things that didn't go perfectly right in their story either. And so I want to encourage you, no matter what point you're at in the business, like, number one, make a decision that you're going to be unwaveringly faithful, that you're never going to quit. Take quitting off the table. If it's even an idea in your mind, that's not good. Like when I hear people say things like, oh yeah, I'm going to work really, really hard for like 6 months and I'll just see what happens. No, you need to commit that you're in this business for the long haul, because a lot can happen in 6 months, but even more can happen in the year. I remember hearing Mark say, give us a year and we'll change your life. And I remember celebrating my 1 year anniversary, making a 6-figure income, an income that we had never made in our life, and thinking like, holy cow, he wasn't kidding when he said that. But it doesn't mean like you're in the business for a year. It means that you're working really, really hard consistently for a year. If you were in the business for 6 months before you ever got started, like that doesn't count. Like give us a year and we'll change your life. Those words could not be more true. And so anyways, that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I feel like I'm probably leaving a few things out, but I can just go on and on about the ways this business has changed our life. It's just absolutely been the platform for complete transformation for our family, and I'm so thankful. And it's so crazy because when I was watching Claire, I remember having all these thoughts in my head that came from the enemy, like, will I be good enough? Will I be as good as her? I don't know if people will like me as much as her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I want you to know is if you're having any thoughts like that in your head, which just go ahead and drop a 1 in the comments if you've battled with any type of self-doubt before. If we're being honest, I think we all have. But I want to tell you, if you've battled with any type of self-doubt, that if the thoughts in your head don't sound good, if they don't feel good, that means they're not from God. They're not your own thoughts. They're not from God. That means they're coming from the enemy. And the enemy only ever comes up against a house that he's scared is going to come up against him. But you have the choice of whether you're going to listen to that voice or whether you're going to shut it off and you're going to cast it out in the name of Jesus. And you're going to cling to your hope and faith that he brought this business into your life for a reason. And I promise you he did. And so often I see people hang on and they push through moments that don't feel good. They push through being slow to go to the next rank or losing rank or whatever the case may be. And then they have a breakthrough and everything makes sense. They're like, I see now why I had to go through the valleys I had to go through, why I had to learn the lessons I had to go through. But then I also see people who are right on the verge of breakthrough just walk away. And it makes me so sad for them because I know what they're missing out on and I know what was on the other side of that. And so I just want to encourage you, like, that's a choice only you can make. And if you can commit right now, like, I'm going to be unwaveringly faithful. I'm never going to quit. I'm going to take quitting off the table. And I'm going to look at every challenge as a chance to grow, as a chance to become a better leader. You will find yourself on the other side so much stronger of a person than you are right now. And you will feel so much more equipped to help every single person that God brings in your path because of it.
And I resonate with that so much because, I know when I started this business, Brittany, that, your story and all of the other leaders and hearing the fast way that they, you know, soared and promoted. And it's so easy, isn't it, girls, to look at others' growth and go, well, I'm not going that fast. And, oh, you know, that's awesome. Because it is, we want to all cheer each other on. And then there were times where I know that there was just a missing piece. And you just said, like, there is that breakthrough. And, you know, I know that when I started, I just wanted that extra $500. I wanted to be able to lose, you know, some weight from having kids, and, you know, didn't really tap into the business side. I just knew I wanted to help people. And it was 3 months into my growth. I went executive in a few months, and my husband read the compensation plan. So he looked at me and he goes, well, I'm your next distributor, and this is what we need to do. And I'm like, great, you be the analytical guy and we'll just do this. And it was when he went emerald before I went diamond, because I offset my chart, right? It happens, you roll the dice for somebody, and I literally gave a ruby to one of my good friends and boxed her for ruby, almost had her in the volume. And my husband promoted to emerald, and he rubbed that in my face in a nice way at conference, that I was a ruby and he was an emerald. But it was that kind of just those years for me, 2017 and 18, were where I almost never thought of quitting, Brittany, but those are those moments where I'm at ruby. So if you guys are like in a spot where for years, months, that you're just are in the same spot, I stayed with it. I never looked left or right. I stayed because I'm like, I'm going to be at the top of the next hill soon. And it was when 2019 came, if you guys have been part of this for that time frame, and they changed the whole structure. And that February I went emerald, and the next month I got the $10,000 diamond bonus. And it was going through the muck and realizing I wasn't being the kind of community leader. I was a power enroller, and my sponsors were very red, and we just put our nose down and did things independently. And it's this year, amongst a COVID pandemic, that I literally now say to the team that has stayed with me and the new teammates that we have, as I'm almost box triple, it's like, this is what I was waiting for. And if you guys are like me, maybe you didn't come into this business with faith. I wasn't raised very religious. And it was because of this business that I found a faith and a connection. And now I journal, and now I do personal development. And now I really have someone to really be thankful for. And again, I'm not someone that was ever a churchgoer, but because of this business and my upline of Christy DeJesus, I got connected to Elevation Church, and it's transcending. So with all that said, just wanted to share, like, guys, stay the course. If you're watching this and you're not in the VIP and you want to be, you got to stay with it, because I'm telling you, when you get that breakthrough, for me, it's this year, it will always be the 2020 breakthrough. And I'm like, this is what it should feel like. So Brittany, how do you manage a life? Because I've got some teammates that have multiple children, and I'm sure there's some other girls here that, you know, have multiples. How do you manage your life, your responsibilities, your day, your schedule, when you were in the trenches and building, and even now maintaining and obviously doing a 2.0 leg? What is a day in a life like for you? How are you managing? What works best for you?
Okay, so number one, I always like to lead with this because I feel like every mom needs to hear it. If you're not a mom, tuck this advice away in the vault to pull out when you do become a mom. But you cannot let your kids run your life. Like, they are your kids. You're the mom. They're the child. Do not let your kids dominate your life. Like, you are in control of your schedule. You're in control of your routine. One of the biggest struggles girls will come to me on my team with is they're like, oh, like so much is going on and I can't work and my kids are all over me. And I'm like, okay, well, you got to if you don't have order, you have chaos. You have one or the other. And personally, I can't thrive in chaos. Like, I have to have order. Anyone who knows me knows, like, I'm like a clean freak. Like, I've got to have like my room looking nice, my office looking nice. And so a couple things that work really practically for me, if you can relate to that type of personality, or you are that type of personality, is I have to have my protected spaces. So for me, it's my office. My office is like, no one comes in my office unless you're just telling me something. You're not in here. You're not in here playing around. Like, that's just not going to happen. So my office stays nice. And then I don't really let my kids in my room either. I know that shocks people. They're like, you let your kids in your room? I really don't, unless they're coming in to tell me something. Like, they can't just play in my room or jump on my bed. Like, that is like my space. This is my space. And I really, really try to empower my kids, especially the older ones, to be responsible. So like I've got 11, 8, 6, 4, and 2. My 11, 8, and 6-year-old, like they have responsibilities. They load the dishwasher, they unload the dishwasher, they wipe the table off when they're done eating. They know in the morning after breakfast, which honestly my 11-year-old makes breakfast for everyone. They know after breakfast when they clean off the table that they like when they're done with their breakfast, like they go have quiet time. Like they know that is mommy's quiet time. That's when I listen to Stephen Furtick. That's when I have my coffee, my keto coffee and greens. They know that like that is my special time. And so you have to tell your kids these things. Like you can't just expect your kids to honor your morning routine when you've never told them what it is. But I told my kids, honestly, when I started the business 4 years ago, and my oldest was 6 at the time, or 6 about to be 7 because she's 11 now. She was very like she's very mature for her age, I will say that, but she was little. She was first grade. And I told her, I said, you know, mommy really needs to have time where I can focus and get my mind right so I can be the best mommy, so I can, you know, do the best at my business. It's really, really important that y'all have time to go play with each other and that I have this time, you know, that I can get my mindset right. And don't think like your kids aren't going to understand that. They understand so much more than you give them credit for, but they will never understand if you don't tell them. Also, I'll have people that'll say things like, oh, I just feel like I feel guilty. I feel like my kids are going to be upset that I'm on my phone. That's something that's like, it's in you and you're projecting that onto them. I promise you, that's not kids' natural way of thinking. Kids are gracious. Kids are excited for what you're excited about. If there's something that you're able to do that's helping your family, they'll be excited. The only problem is when they don't know what's going on. And so for me, like when I got started, I would tell my kids like, okay, mommy has a Zoom. I need you guys to play in here quietly. I'm working really, really hard so we can move into a nicer house. When we got started, we lived in like a 1,200 square foot house, and we were a family of 6. We were on top of each other. So I would tell them like, they helped with the dream board. We had a dream board on our living room wall. I let them put stuff on it. And I would tell them like, okay, mommy's gonna go do this real quick. I need to get some work done. I'm working so hard so we can go to Disney World. We went to Disney World 14 months into my business. And so they have consistently seen the product of my hard work. They've consistently seen the fruit of mommy's labor. And so what I want you to know is if you tell them that, they're going to understand it. And then when it comes to fruition, they're really going to understand it because they're going to be like, oh, that's what she said 8 months ago. Now we're doing it. And also too, I think as a mom, it holds you so much more accountable when you've told your kids the plan. Like when you've told your kids, like I'm working hard so we can move into a bigger house, or I'm working hard so we can go to Disney World next year. Now, you know, they know that that's why you're working hard. And so it's so much harder for you to slack off just because you're feeling a little unmotivated one day because you know like, oh, they're expecting me to make Disney World happen. So I better snap out of it. So those are just kind of some easy things for me that are like, I don't care who you are, what your parenting style is like you can do this if you want to do this. I think that it's really important to identify what you need and be real with yourself. Self-care is not just a good idea, it's a necessity for every single person in the world, whether you have kids or not. So even if you're on here and you're single, you should be having a self-care routine. Like you should make sure you're making time for yourself. You're taking your supplements, you're, you know, going on walks or exercising in some way. You're pouring into your mind. You're listening to something like Stephen Furtick or Darius Daniels or an audiobook or whatever. You've got to make self-care a priority. And so if you're on here and you're a mom and it's a little more complicated because you have a busy schedule with your kids, you got to look at like, what do you need? What's your personality? Like, what's your ideal day? And I think that's the best way I could say it is like, what is your perfect day? In a perfect world, what would your day look like? Pretend you didn't have kids. What would your day look like? And so for me, like I'm not a super morning person. I really, really don't like the mornings actually. So I make my mornings surrounded with, my mornings consist of taking care of myself, getting in the right frame of mind, doing my self-development, all that. And then I kind of really launch full swing into work around lunchtime. And so like my kids know mornings are important to me. They know that I'm going to be way more accessible in the afternoon. I like to get a chunk of work done, hang out with them. I usually I'm homeschooling my older 3 kids now. So I take like my daughter on walks and stuff in the afternoon when we're done with school and I'm taking a break from work. And then when I have to come back in and shift gears and get back, you know, to answering some messages, getting some work done, they're fine with it. Like your kids don't need you to entertain them 24/7. And that's the other thing I kind of want to wrap up with this point is that if you think you need to entertain your kids 24/7, I want you to ask yourself, did your mom entertain you 24/7? I would venture to say no one on here had a parent that coddled them all day, every day. Like that wasn't the dynamic in that generation. And I don't know why it's the dynamic in our generation because it's just not a good idea. It doesn't raise healthy, independent adults. Your grandma didn't coddle your mom or your dad 24/7. They didn't. They had stuff to do. And so you got to get that out of your head that like the Pinterest mom generation, they've made it seem like you're a crappy mom if you don't sit and do crafts with your kids all day. but that's not real life. Like in the real world, people have a lot of balls they're juggling, and kids play. They go outside. My son loves going outside to catch lizards, you guys. Like that's like the highlight of his day is catching lizards. My other son fishes. Like they do, and I know like not everyone, maybe like you don't live in Florida, so there's not lizards, but there's something they can do. They can go, explore outside another way. But like kids should be kids. Like I believe I'm giving my kids the greatest gift by letting them be creative and letting them go have fun. I'm not going to bear that responsibility square on my shoulders that I need to entertain them all day. I'm just not. And I firmly believe that a lot of the success in my business has come from having a healthy mindset and realistic, healthy expectations of what motherhood should look like and what it shouldn't. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed with your kids, you're feeling like a crappy mom, you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not spending any time with my kids. Like, first of all, take a step back and ask yourself, like, do I have unrealistic expectations? And am I expecting, like, I need to be this perfect Pinterest mom? Get that right first. And then second of all, redesign your schedule if you need to. I was just telling one of my new girls was over at my house today. She lives local. And so she came over with her kids, and I was talking to her and I said, when I don't start answering messages till noon. My team knows that. They know if they message me then 8 o'clock in the morning, that's fine. I just probably won't answer it till about noon. But when I answer everything, I will answer all my messages, my team, my potentials. If I had host a post up the night before and there's people saying stuff, I'll do all that. And then when I catch up and I've gotten everything done, I set my phone down and I go do something else. I go switch laundry. I go talk to my kids. If I've got an errand around, I do that. And then when I come back a few hours later, I pick back up and I catch up on whatever I need to catch up on. I get more posts to post up. I make a post, whatever. But I don't feel like in the meantime, like when I set my phone down after answering everything and I'm doing laundry and all that, if a message pops up, I don't think I have to answer it that very second. Like if I just spent 2 hours doing stuff, I'm perfectly at peace setting it down and coming back to it in a little bit. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's my advice for you is get in a schedule where you get everything done, you're caught up, and then you do shift gears. You do go do something else. And then you can come back in a couple hours and, okay, what needs my attention now? Like, who do I need to respond to now? What's on my list now to do? But I think when we feel burnt out and we feel like we're working nonstop, it's probably because every time something pops up, you're like, oh my gosh, let me respond to that comment. Let me do that. When you don't have to do that. Like you can organize your day a little bit better than that. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a culprit of that. I mean, I used to be that urgency, and I'd get the bad eye from the husband and I'd have the phone at the dinner table because it was in my mind, like the urgency was there. I wanted to, have the conversation, even though I may have sent it hours ago, now it's being responded to. And I will agree that, there was many times where I kept working every month for, the next promotion, and it was a gerbil on the wheel because I was just burnt at both ends. I still love this business. I'm still obsessed with it. I look at it as an extra child, like it needs my attention, but at the same time, I want to be the best boss and not, burning a candle at both ends. So I really appreciate, Brittany, you saying that, because really, I mean, that we're all trying to level up and do better and do more with our business. It's always refreshing to hear you guys who, have been there to really say, like, look, give yourself some grace. I love that the company is now saying, take your Sabbath, take your break, take your downtime, because when you got to plug in and you're going for promotions and your teams, we're all trying to get rubies, created right now with our 1,000 rubies. There is plug-in time. There is the time where the tide rises and everybody needs to hunker down and do more. But no, I'm so glad you touched upon that and giving grace, because I have, when the kids just aren't in the know, that was the biggest thing. So if you guys are trying to work this with your family, communication, them knowing what you're working towards makes the biggest deal. Because I remember telling my kids that, we're going to go to Disney, you got to let mom, not let mom, but mom's working really, really hard. And, for 10 years in my 40s, I rented, and I finally bought a home at age 48. And it was the product of the work. And now they're like, okay, mom, you're doing your thing. And the dream board's behind me. And guys, it took me forever to do that because I was just so focused on the end result. And it was all the meat and potatoes of the soup that I was missing. And it was when I finally realized the personal development, taking time for that. Not that I thought I had it all put together when I came on board, Brittany, but I was that was always the last on my list. You know, it was always the last on my list. Can you share with the class, can you share some must-dos if we are going to promote in this business? What are some must-dos that you have learned over time as you've been promoting through the ranks?
Okay, so your time that you're spent working on your business in any capacity should be divided into thirds. You should be spending 1/3 of your time doing self-development. You should be spending 1/3 of your time helping your team, and 1/3 of your time continuously building your own business. And if you get out of balance with that, that's when you're probably going to feel like something's not right. So for example, if you're not doing self-development very much, and self-development is only 1/10 of your time, you're not going to feel great. You're not going to have the success that you could have. If maybe you're doing self-development the way that you should, but you're not building your own business, you're in a management mode, and so the other 2/3 is helping your team 24/7. You're not going to feel great because yes, you're being of service to your team, but you're neglecting your own business. And all of us deep down want to set a good example. I don't care who you are, even if you don't realize it, you do want to set a good example. And so if we're not doing that, even if it's subconscious and we don't realize it, we'll start recoiling. Like we won't do as well as we could do because, and you're not going to go very far because you do have to lead from the front. And so for me, like keeping that balance is so important. If I'm in the middle of making a post and like 7 messages pop up for my team, ding, 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 I'm not going to stop writing the post to answer them. I'm going to finish the post, click post, then I'm going to go answer the messages. If I'm in the middle of post to post, and that's exclusively what I'm working on, like I just did a giveaway post and it got all these comments and I'm coming back to it and now I'm messaging those people. While I'm messaging those people, I'm not going to also be answering messages from my team. I'm not going to be also over getting distracted on Instagram and liking posts. Like I'm going to be focusing on those post to posts. And so I think that kind of leading into that next point, it's like staying focused. When you're doing a little bit of everything, but you're not finishing anything, you don't feel productive. Like if you have like 50 things that you're working on and you only finish 10% of all of them, then you went to sleep at the end of the day, honestly, probably not feeling productive because you're like, I didn't get anything done today. And you were doing a lot of stuff, but you didn't actually finish anything. But when you actually finish like this thing, and maybe you only finished 10 of the 50 things, but you actually completed 10 full things, then you feel productive and you feel good about yourself because you're like, I got 10 solid things done. Like I really needed to do that. And so for me, that's kind of like just a non-negotiable is like not getting caught up in the scroll, not getting sidetracked, like, oh, squirrel, rabbit hole, what am I going to, like, like if I'm doing something, I'm doing something. And that's that. And that can be applied to all areas of your life. Like it's the same thing if you're, doing something with your kids or doing something around your house, like complete one task and move on to the next. And you'll feel so much better. Have a 6 list or the KPI. You need to have a list of something you're completing every single day, whether it's the exact KPI or you've tweaked a little bit or you've had a 6 list you've stuck to forever. I know my team is pretty much all doing the KPI now. We are primarily an attraction marketing team, and so we've tweaked a couple things with the messaging to be more like post-to-post centered and stuff like that. But we do the KPI, and I think that like it's one of those things, if you feel like what you're doing is not working and you don't feel productive, it's probably because you're lacking that order, you're lacking that organization, because we crave that. And so I want to challenge you, like, just start doing the KPI and do it for a month and see what happens. Because if you aren't having the results that you need, it's probably a really easy fix. It's that or it's self-development. Like that, I feel very strongly it's one of the two. I do see people who do all the right things but aren't doing self-development. And they're not getting anywhere. So it's, to me, in my experience, it's always one of the two. Make sure you've got those right. Make sure you've got your thirds in the correct balance. And I think that's the key things for the business. I think, beyond that, so much of what we do in the business, we figure out as we go. Beyond that, everybody does have their own little personal twist they put on certain things. And that's what I love about the business. But those things are constant no matter who you are and how you're primarily working your business.
And you said that your team is primarily an attraction marketing, team, and full-heartedly, yes. I mean, I feel so brought into your life, when I follow you and see the things that you're posting about, obviously Claire being an influence as well. What do you suggest to those of us that, I guess the thing that I hear my team say is, I want to be like that. I want to showcase my life like that, but without the success per se, or she can do it because she's got all the time in the world. She's an ambassador diamond. She has everything locked in. What things can you, say to dispel that, right? And how can someone brand new start to brand themselves with obviously their pillars, the things that bring them joy, Brittany, how do you bring on a newbie into the kind of world that you and Claire and the others on your team with the attraction marketing and the branding? Because you guys are, I mean, it is beautiful pictures, it is authentic wording. Can you share how you kind of onboard your new people when their story is just starting?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, I want to share with you guys, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but there was a quote in a book that I read earlier this year, or last year, and it said, greatness doesn't happen whenever you walk across the stage. The platform only exposes greatness that was already there. Like, greatness starts when you make the decision to be great. And so often we have that backwards. You think, like, because you made the comment, like, people might think like, oh, well, it's easy for you to say you're an ambassador diamond. I would have never been an ambassador diamond had I not made the decisions that I made when no one knew my name, when no one knew who I was. You have to make those decisions right now. And when you make those decisions right now, you find yourself walking across the stage. You find yourself ambassador diamond with all the resources you could imagine to design your life the way that you want. But I had to lean in, and I had to roll up my sleeves and get my elbows dirty when I was living in a 1,200 square foot house with 4 kids and taking care of my grandpa. And like, my life was not glamorous. My house was older and dark and had yellow lighting, and there was not pretty backdrops for pictures. I had to go outside and use the natural light. I would literally pose my kids against a tree in my front yard. I would take pictures right in front of a window and blur out the background. Like, I did not have a glamorous life when I got started, but I had to be solution minded and make a decision to make it work anyways. I would take my kids to the park, and I would do my story post at the park and just take a picture of them playing at the park and just say, I'm so thankful that thanks to working off my smartphone, I can hang out with my kids at the park and still make an income and get some work done at the same time. If you've been praying for this kind of breathing, if you've been praying for this kind of solution for your family life, for your family's life as well, I would absolutely love to talk to you. Message me or text opportunity to blah, blah, blah. So even before I'd even made any money, like, I was writing posts like that. You've got to see it and like believe in it before it's happened. You've got to know if it works for her, it'll work for me. I truly had the mindset, if it worked for Claire, it'll work for me. I had that faith. And I have people that get started with me that have that same type of faith, and I watch what happens in their life. I also have people that get started with me and have all the potential in the world. Truthfully, maybe even more potential than the people that have the faith and have less potential, but they don't have the belief. They don't have the faith. And so they have all this potential, but they can't get out of their head. They can't just go for it. And so they don't have the same success this person has, who probably was less qualified, but they were like, hey, I'm all in. If you can do it, so can I. Like, I'm here to learn. And so that's kind of one thing that I think is just like, it's a non-negotiable. And unfortunately, that's the one thing I cannot do for anybody. I can teach you how to take the most beautiful pictures. I can teach you how to write stories. I can teach you all the things. But if you're not willing to have some belief in yourself, I mean, I can believe in you all day long, but you got to believe in yourself. And so that's step one. But I think being solution-minded is just such a huge part of it. You've got to be willing to work with what you have. I know who's going to do well right off the gates when they come to me. Like, maybe they're having a hiccup, but they're like, I want to work this out. Can you help me? I know there's got to be a way I can fix this. Or someone that just comes and is like, wah, wah, wah. They're whining all the time. I'm like, okay, like, listen, you've got to turn that frown upside down if I'm going to be able to help you. Otherwise, everything I say is a moot point, because you're not even going to hear it, because you're already in this dark space where you're just, all you're seeing is problems. For me, I don't see problems. I see solutions. If something's not right, all I go to, and you can ask my household this, my kids, my husband, everyone will tell you this, I immediately go into solution. Like, this is what we're going to do to fix it. We just got a dog, and I literally was like telling my husband last night some things we need to do differently with the dog, because I'm not going to let a dog be a stress in my life. I'm just not going to. So like, if there's something that is stressing me out, I'm like, oh, there's definitely a solution here. Let's move towards that solution and fix it. And I firmly believe, like, if that's how you look at life, no problem will ever intimidate you. If that's how you look at life, you're gonna always come out on top. You're always gonna win. But you have to make that decision. As far as, telling your story and branding and all of those things, I look back at my time hop. I look at the posts that I made 4 years ago, and I'm a little embarrassed. They weren't that great. Believe it or not, like, I did not become an ambassador diamond making beautiful posts. I learned that and got better along the way. When I got started, my posts were actually really grainy. And like I said, I didn't have a lot of light in my house, and I did the best with what I could. But it wasn't anything like what I have now. And so I don't want you to look at like my pictures or Claire's pictures and be like, oh, well, I don't even know how to do that. I'm so far off. Because you just, the way you get there is just by starting. I'm better at pictures now than I was even a year ago. And I was ambassador a year ago. I've grown just in a year. Like, you can always get better at picture and video. I'm still not as good at video as some people. I've got rubies on my team who can slay me in video. Like, I look at their videos and I'm like, holy cow, how did they make that TikTok? And so I'm still learning stuff like that. Like, I'm just not playing around with reels and things like that. And so that's the other thing I'll tell you is that you've got to just take a step forward and go. You're not going to do it perfect right away, and no one expects you to. Some of my biggest rock stars on my team today joined back when I took not the greatest pictures. One thing I will tell you though is that I have never copied and pasted ever. And I see a huge difference in the people on my team who write their own stuff versus the people who are always copying and pasting. I'm not offended if you copy my post. If you copy my post, I do not care. I'm happy to be of service. If you're in a place where you're like brain fog, you don't know what to say, that's okay. But it can't be forever. You do have to start just writing your own posts. So many people will be like, well, I just can't say it as good as other people. Like, I just don't know what to say. You do know what to say. And if you don't know what to say, go turn on some inspiration, turn on an audiobook, turn on Stephen Furtick, turn on something and start getting your wheels turning. Because as you're listening to that inspiration, some stuff's going to go through your mind. And if you'll just listen to it, you'll find some things that are on your heart that spoke to you that you could write about. You'll hear something being said that you're like, oh, I could totally turn that topic into a post. Like I could totally go with that. I wrote a post about self-doubt a while ago, and it came from earlier that day. I was listening to a sermon on doubt, and the sermon on doubt gave me so many ideas that I went outside and went on a walk, and I just started writing in my notes this post about doubt. So if you're feeling uninspired, go get inspired, and you'll think of what to say. But if you're still copying and pasting people's posts, and it's been 6 months, you gotta stop. And not because you're offending anybody, but just because you gotta do this for yourself. I have always written my own posts, and when I go back and I look at Time Hop and I read what I wrote 4 years ago, it wasn't even as well said as it is now. I've definitely become more eloquent with my words, but I started by just starting. I started by just saying what was on my heart. And my writing style has definitely changed, and I would say improved over time. But some ways that you can kind of get started though, that I always like to give examples is, let's say you're brand new, you've only been in for a month. If you're a mom, you can, like I said, go to the park, take a picture of your kids there, and talk about how you're so thankful that you can make an income while playing with your kids. Maybe you have a goal to retire your husband. I want you guys to know, I put my goals out there unashamedly, unapologetically, boldly from the beginning. I didn't care who made fun of me, and I did get made fun of by my family. I had people that in my family that blocked me and told me I was dumb and was never going to do that. But I still put my goals out there anyways. And something Cami Pentecost said when we were in Costa Rica for the Top 20 Leadership Retreat in December that I'll never forget, it spoke to me so much, is she said, anytime in my business, I knew what I want, but I was afraid to talk about it. It didn't happen until I got over myself. She said, anytime I kind of knew what I wanted, but I wasn't super sure, it didn't happen until I got clear. She said, you have to know very clearly what you want, and you have to not be afraid to talk about it. Because if you're afraid to talk about it, it's not going to happen until you get over yourself. It's a simple law of attraction. You have this big goal, but you're not going to tell anybody. You're going to keep it in here. You need things to be gravitating towards you. You need good things to be coming your way. But that starts with putting it out there, not being afraid to talk about it. Kind of going back to the dream board, I wasn't afraid to say, I'm working hard so you guys can go to Disney World. That spurred a whole ripple effect of my kids wanting to get on board with being compliant and being good kids around the house and not making messes and stressing mommy out. They wanted to be the best kids they could be because they're we'll do whatever. You do this, we're going to do our part, we're going to go to Disney. And it's a family affair. It's no different. When you're writing your content, people want to follow someone who knows where they're going. They want to follow people that they're inspired by. So I would take a picture of my husband coming home from work, super dirty because he worked outside, and he'd be on the floor with my baby or something, or one of my kids. And I would write a post about how I was going to retire him. I didn't care if people thought it was dumb, because you know what? For every person that thought it was dumb, someone joined me because of it. Someone else was like, oh my gosh, I want to retire my husband. And so I would make posts saying for months and months, I followed a girl on social media and watched her rapidly change her family's life working off her smartphone. I watched her retire her husband. I watched her earn an income higher than corporate America could ever pay her. And finally, after a lot of watching, I couldn't shake the feeling that was the solution for my family too. So I jumped in and got started. Now I'm working off my smartphone too. This is going to be the year I retire my husband. I'm so excited about what the future holds. If you've been praying for a solution for your family too, I would absolutely love to talk to you. Message me or text opportunity to blah, blah, blah. You could take a picture at the grocery store, loading your groceries up and just saying, for as long as I can remember, I've had to check my card in the line at the grocery store because I was afraid it might decline. But now, thanks to working off my smartphone, I have extra income coming in to cover these types of things. If you could use breathing room in your budget as well, I'd love to talk to you about how working off your smartphone could be that solution for you. Message me or text opportunity. So if you see where I'm going with this, you can tell your posts so many different ways. You can use any scenario and tell your story. You just have to go for it and say it from your heart, because there's a reason you got started with this business. There's things that happen throughout your day-to-day life that are personal to you. And if you just spend your days copying everyone else's post, you're going to miss what you could be saying straight from your heart that would speak to someone watching you.
Absolutely. And I think that, gosh, she's in my head tonight. Is she in your head? I mean, everything that as I've thought about, Brittany's like hitting it. I love it. Love it. I mean, when I broke down the wall and pulled back the curtain this year for me, because I'm like, it's a pandemic, it's COVID. Like there's nothing else. Everyone's home hunkered down. And I started to get over myself and share my story of a car repossessed. I was on food stamps with my second marriage when we started. I had kids, later in life, and now I'm playing catch up. Like it's okay. Like until I interviewed Melody McFarlane a couple of weeks ago, Brittany, I was like, God, I'm old starting this business. And she's like, Heidi, I started at your age. I started at 49 with It Works. I'm like, thank the Lord. Okay, good. I started at 44, but still feeling like watching all the girls. It's so easy to do that comparison game because I'm like watching all the 20-year-olds and I'm seeing them like promote up the ranks. And I'm like, good Lord, get my walker out. Like I'll get there. I'll get there. I'll walk across that stage with the walker and I'll be just fine. Right. But it is, everything that you just said, Brittany. Oh my gosh, everything that you just said. It is important to share your story. Because listen, when I started, I was copying and pasting. I'm like, okay, I was told who to follow, and I tweaked it a little bit. But again, it wasn't that connection. And this year was the year that I really, like hopefully many of you, have just open those little doors to the little skeletons, and it's okay. We don't have to be perfect. Someone's mentioning in the chat, you're 66, go Sharon. Some people are messaging in the chat, I'm not perfect. No, don't listen. That's what I wanted Brittany to really touch upon, is that it is amazing. The photos, and a lot of our leadership have amazing stories. But if you read through some of their posts, they are sharing like there has been struggle like everybody else. And if their branding is going to be the great lighting and all of that, great, good for them. If you're taking a quick photo and your kids are like hanging on each other, right? And you're still at the park and you're still benefiting from your business and you're still grateful, that's words. Because I know when I shared, Brittany, like my struggles, the day that I shared that I had a car repossessed and it took me forever to buy a house, I had a teammate join me that day. As soon as I resonated something that they were like, okay, Heidi's life isn't perfect. It isn't. Oh no, it's not. We've been there, been through all that stuff. So last question I wanted to ask that we have time for. God, this is good. Is this good? It's like you just kind of get to peer in and like look at the life of, right? I'm just so thankful. I'm so grateful. Why do you love It Works? Because again, this goes out on YouTube. This is public. We're loud and proud It Works people. Why, Brittany, It Works? Why do you love the business? And why are you going to never quit? What's going to keep you here?
So I think for starters, when you really get to know the heart of this company, like you realize there's just nothing that compares. For those of you who are newer, and you maybe haven't really fully experienced it yet, start getting on the family calls. You'll experience it hearing Mark every single Sunday night. But I've met Mark and Cindy. I've had breakfast with Cindy. I've had coffee with her. She's prayed over me. She's hugged me when I've been crying about something deeply personal, and I literally cry like 4 times a year, so that's a big deal. I've had lunch with Mark and Cindy back when I was a triple diamond. I remember getting invited to something in Dallas with them. It was an intimate lunch with like 10 people, and I remember thinking, how the heck do they know who I am? I'm just triple diamond. It's not even like I'm the top of the company yet. But that year had been a top enroller, and I had just had Adeline, my 5th baby, and was still a top enroller, and they recognized me and invited me to something and sat there and held my baby. Like, who does that? What CEO of a company going beyond $1 billion cares enough to hold your baby? Like, that's not normal. And I just think like when you like truly start looking at who they are and their story, I don't know if you guys know this, but they were independently wealthy when they started this company. They had already made their fortune in a network marketing company. If for those of you that don't know, they were selling calling cards back when calling cards were a thing. And when the company went under because calling cards were no longer a thing, they were set for life. They did not have to do anything else, but they did anyways, because they said that company blessed them so much and took them from being Mark was a school teacher and a basketball coach in a really small town. I think I want to say the number I heard them say was making like $30,000 a year. Cindy was a stay-at-home mom. They lived a really simple life, couponing and garage selling and all the things. And when that company changed their life and they went to the top of the company and they made all this money, they realized they wanted to create an opportunity that was timeless, unlike calling cards, that could give young people like all of us, because all of us are young here, age is just a number, and we still have the best yet to come in our life. And so I love so much, Heidi, that you're just so like open about like, yeah, I'm 48 and I don't care. Like, I talked to Melody McFarland, like, I know the best days are ahead of me, and Melody is so inspiring for that reason, because when you talk to her, you really truly like see like, holy cow, there's so much potential for me, especially if you're 20. Like, if you're 20, you have no reason to be negative, because there's people like Melody who get started at almost 50 and are crushing it. And so this business is for anyone and everyone, which is what I love. There's no company out there like this company. They started this company wanting to give people like us an opportunity to work hard and be debt free, because they believe everyone deserves to live a life of freedom. And I want you to like really soak in that. Imagine right now that you're set for life. I don't know how much they were worth when they got started, but I know it was a lot. So let's imagine you're set for life. You have millions in the bank. One time Pam said to me when I was with her in Sarasota, she said, you know, if you're not dreaming, if your goal is not 20 million in the bank, you're dreaming way too small. She said, I remember the day that I hit 20 million in the bank, and I'm like, okay, like now I'm starting to get somewhere. And that's like her mindset. It's like, no, like don't play small. Like you can give more, you can be more, you can do more, you can be a blessing to others the further you go. And so like, let's say that you are just wildly successful. You've got 20 million in the bank. But then you still say to yourself, I don't want to just sit back on my rest on my laurels. I don't want to just retire on my private island. Like, I want to go start something to change other people's lives. I want to give back to other people. That's what kind of people Mark and Cindy are. They did not take a salary for the first 7 years of this business because they wanted every ounce of income to go back into the business to pay distributors more. Over 50 cents of every single dollar It Works makes goes back out into commissions. That is unheard of. You go look at numbers for other companies out there, that is unheard of. Most CEOs are concerned about their bottom line. They are not concerned about that. And Mark and Cindy are, and that's what kind of people they are. And when you fully understand, like, that's what kind of company I'm part of, that's what kind of people run this company. They put God first. They encourage us to put God first. They encourage us to give back. They give back. You see so clearly why It Works is so blessed. You see why in the midst of a pandemic, It Works is having the best year they've ever had. You see why their sales are through the roof, because you see like, holy cow, God's hand is on this business. And why is God's hand on this business? Because of the people who are leading it, because they give all the glory back to him. They give all the honor back to him. And I don't know about you guys, but like, that's the kind of leadership that I look up to and respect. And I just think to myself, like, how blessed I am to have found, like, I'd never heard of It Works before Claire joined. And I firmly believe everything happens for a reason. And so ask yourself, how did you find out about It Works? You found out about it for a reason. Now it's your turn to take the baton and to fully realize what you have your hands on, and that it is truly something so special and so incredible, and go all in with it and do your part. Because when they started this company, they passed the baton to every single one of us. It's up to us what we do with it.
So good. I mean, wow, Brittani, I had internal high expectations because I knew you were going to deliver. And this is so like not even scripted, guys. I mean, I sent her a little lead-in questions, but isn't it amazing to just hear, for me, for you guys, I'm sure there's some things that get validation, and you just need to hear them again and again. And sometimes it's one of these types of Zooms that you just hear it and you're finally like, okay, that's all I need. Like, you know, full steam ahead. And I know that I never knew that. I never knew that they didn't take a salary for the first 7 years. I mean, all of these things that you keep hearing about, the values and the integrity of the Pentecost. One of my videos that is uploaded, if you missed it, I did interview Cindy Pentecost. I had her on a few Mondays ago, and that was extra. I mean, that was extraordinary. And she is exactly what a lot of people were wondering, are they like that? They're just so genuine. And, you know, whenever somebody says, oh, you're with an MLM or you're doing that, I get all like, my feathers get all fluffed up, and I'm like, you have no idea what your closed-minded, right, attitude is. And if you guys get ruffled by that, don't, because I'll tell you right now, I mean, my background was a secretary, was admin assistant, was a cheer coach, and I went to school for television broadcasting. And I didn't pursue it because it was just a very hard edge kind of career. And I didn't want to deal with the politics and all of that. And so now I feel like, okay, I'm tapping into a little bit of that in this kind of forum, because we all have strengths, and any weaknesses that we do have, we just get loved on by this kind of leadership, and we're able to fall and fail forward than stopping. And I love that you said everything, Brittani, tonight, really everything. I've never chatted with you personally, and I'm just so thankful that you took some time tonight for sure to love on us and to give us some guidance. And you know, I just am very, very grateful. Do you have anything closing that you didn't get to?
I think the last thing to say is just, you're in the last quarter of 2020 now. It doesn't matter what you wish you would have done, you could have done differently, should have done differently this year. You're in the last quarter into strong. Go all in. Stop doubting yourself. Just go all in and do it. Just plug in, stay close to the fire. Take everything that you know and just put one foot in front of the other every single day, because step by step, that's how you get where you want to go. And so just go for it. End this year strong. How you end this year is how you start 2021. And we all know, or at least I think everyone on here knows, if you're brand new, maybe you don't, but Mark always starts the new year off with a bang. And so if you want to maximize whatever he does in 2021, it starts right now. It starts with getting that momentum going now. So go all in the year strong, make it count.
All right. Thank you so much, Brittani, again, from the bottom of my heart, hon. This was amazing. I will be uploading this. I'll send you the recording, hon, so you can certainly share with everyone in your organization. And again, it will be on my YouTube channel. Such a wonderful night. Guys, be well, stay well, and go for it. Just do it. Who cares about anybody else but you, your business, your family, your mission? And we'll all be there at the top, and we're going to give one big hug once we can all get together again. Oh, I miss the event so much. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Brittani. Much love. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful night, guys.